Hello everybody, welcome to this instruction video. In this video I'd like to show you how to make the Bullfinch blanket. Now I've got the blanket here, but it's actually too large to really get well in front of the camera, but it's made from a very large Scheepjes whirl. So it starts here from, this is one end, and you can see here's already some of the color changes happening, and it changes to yet another color and another color. So this color changing whirl makes the blanket out of all these squares, and at the end there's again a border around it that also shows the color change. As you can see, it goes from inside out, from blue to darker blue. Now I won't be using this original color scheme to show you how to make the blanket. Instead of this, I'll use a smaller blanket with to show you all the elements that are involved in making this large blanket. I will be showing you how to make the Bullfinch blankets by actually doing a small sample blanket with you, this one. And I'm purposefully using different colors of yarn on all the squares so that you can really see the joins and where I pick up stitches and things like that. So this is just a small sample that actually is just to show you how to work the blanket. And I'll be showing you all the steps that are involved with making the blanket, and then you just repeat that, for more, so to have the full-sized blanket. So let's get started with the first square. Row 1, I have to start with a slip knot on my hook. And then we're going to make quite a base chain, going to do 52 chain stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and make sure to keep on counting, 4, 5, so that you really have 52 at the end. So I'm going to continue with this for a while until I have 52. So I now have 52 chains, so it's quite a stretch. And now we're going to start working double crochets in the second chain from the hook, and then one in each for 24. So the second chain from the hook, so that's the first one. We're going to skip that first chain. Now that doesn't count for anything, that's just to be able to turn more easily. Then come to the second and work a double in there. That's one. And then also in the next one, this is 2, so you're going to work 24, 2, and then this is 3, and 4, and I'm going to continue like this, 5, until I've done 24, oh, I just lost my yarn from the hook, until I've done 24 of them. So I've now done a few, continue like this, work a double crochet on every chain for 24. So I've worked 24 doubles there, and now over the next 3 stitches we're going to make a corner, and over the next 3 chains going to work a double crochet 3 together. That means in the next chain, insert and pick up a loop, the next chain, insert and pick up a loop, and the third one do the same. That means you now have 4 loops on your hook. Going to yarn over and take them all off in one go. This is a corner stitch, and it's important to find these stitches in the future. So I'm going to mark this corner stitch, this stitch, because it's going to make life a lot easier later on if you can easily see where that stitch is. So I'm just going to mark that corner. Double crochet 3 together. Now you should have 24 chains left right until the end. Going to work a double crochet on each of those also. So, and again here be careful, you could accidentally work in that chain, but that's not where you should go, because you can see there's actually a leg in there from the double 3 together. So come to the next stitch. So here, this is your next stitch. So that's 1 and 2, and it should be 24 until you're to the corner, or to the corner, to the edge. and then I'll just see you back. 24 doubles. I'm almost to the end. I have one more chain left, and then just in this very last chain, just before the slip knot, work your last double. There we go. So now you have 24 doubles. You have here the 3 together stitch and then 24 doubles again. This side, this is this side of your work. This is the right side of your work, and it could be easier to just mark this right side. And I know it's a little small now, but I'm just going to mark this side. So I'm just going to pop a stitch marker through the front stitches here. That I know this is the right side as opposed to the other side. And when my work is just a few more rows up, then I'll just move this stitch marker up a little bit so it's just easier to see. But for now, I'm just going to mark the right side of my work because it's just easier that way. So that was row 1. Turn your work, so turn the other way for row 2. Row 2, I'm going to start row 2 with a chain 1, and this is to turn, so you can really work your next stitches easier. And now we're going to work double crochets in the back loop of our stitches until one stitch before the marked corner, so this 3 together stitch. Now this chain 1 doesn't count for anything, so that's the chain 1. You're going to skip that, come to the second V that you can see, but it's the first actual stitch. Then in the back loop, they work a double in the back loop only. So that's your first double. And then you're going to work in the back loop only, a double crochet on every stitch until there is one stitch left before that 3 together corner stitch that we marked in the previous row. And this is also why we marked that stitch, because then now you can just go work one double on every stitch in the back loop, and you don't have to really worry like you're going to miss that stitch because you've marked it. So in the back loop only, and this is important because that gives you the nice texture, work a double crochet. So now I've worked a few already, so continue like this, and then I'll see you back here when you've got a few stitches left. So I'm almost there. See, at this point here's the marked stitch, and then there are 2 stitches left. So I'm just going to work one last double crochet here on this stitch. And now you have 1 stitch left, and then you have the marked stitch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the stitch marker because that's going to make life easier, because we're going to work a double crochet 3 together. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker. So now over the next 3 stitches, work a double crochet 3 together. And again only in the back loops. So in the next stitch, the back loop, pick up 1 loop, come to the next stitch, which will actually be this 3 together stitch, pick up a loop, and come to the next stitch again and pick up a loop. Now you have 4 loops on your hook, take them all off in one go. This 3 together stitch, mark it, because we're going to be repeating this row many times, and then you can easily find that corner. Now we're going to continue and work on every stitch right up to the end, work a double crochet in the back loop. Again, pay a little bit of attention, because you see here you've just picked up a loop there, so this is the stitch that you need to go to, so not here, here. and then work a double in that back loop. So that's 1, and then come again to the next stitch, 2, and continue until you're to the end. And your work is indeed, it's still small, but as it grows this will become easier. So in the back loop only, work a double, and then I'll just see you for the last few stitches. Almost to the end. Just want to show you the last few stitches. You see I've got 2 stitches left, and here's the turning chain. So on those last 2 stitches work a double in the back loop. So that's 1, and especially this very last stitch on a row can be insanely easy to miss because the turning chain is sometimes in the way and things like that you miss it. So double on the back loop of those last stitches, and now again turn for row 3. So this is your work at the moment, teeny tiny. You've got 2 rows, but row 2 that we just did, you're going to repeat that until you've done 24 rows. So you're going to work a double crochet in the back loop of every stitch until you have 1 stitch left before the corner here, and then over those 3 stitches work a double 3 together, and then work a double on every stitch in the back loop up until the end. You're going to repeat that for, well, until row 24. I'll just show you this row 3 very quickly, but it is in essence the repetition of row 2. So a quick repetition, chain 1, then come to the first stitch, so skipping this turning chain, come to the next stitch in the back loop, work a double crochet on every stitch until there's 1 stitch left before the marked corner, the 3 together stitch. So a double crochet on the back loop, the last double in the back loop. There we go. Now there is 1 stitch left, and then there's the marked stitch. So I'm just going to remove the stitch marker again, and then over the next 3 stitches in the back loop a double 3 together. So this is 1 and 2 and 3, 4 loops on your hook. Take them all off. Oop, that went a little bit wrong. No stress, we just do that again. And then mark this stitch once more, so the 3 together stitch gets a stitch marker. And now repeat, work a double crochet on the back loop of every stitch until you're to the end of the row. And you'll see slowly but surely, you'll see your corner here, this corner really starting to take shape. So in the back loop a double. And I've got I've got 2 stitches left. Note here there's a stitch and there's another stitch here, and it's really hidden by that turning chain. So really be careful of these turning chains that you don't miss the stitch that's underneath. So there's a stitch here, and there's one there. So really dig out that last stitch, because otherwise you're gonna get, there you go. So really dig out, oh, that's actually the front loop. Oh no, it was the back loop, sorry. So dig out that last stitch there. So that's an easy mistake to make, is that you miss that last stitch. Well, that was row 3. So repeat until you have 24 rows done, and then I'll see you for row 25. And when you've done all 24 rows, this is what your work looks like. You have 3 stitches left here at the top. We're going to be working those in a moment on row 25. But this is your work right now. And you'll notice that it's very wobbly and really it folds over, but that's okay. When we finish the blanket and you block everything, that'll be fine. But this is the effect you have right now. So let's continue for the very last row. Row 25, last row. You should have the right side facing. So you see here's the stitch marker, I have the right side. And you should have 3 stitches left here, right here at the top, and you just have to roll them over to see them, but there's 3 stitches left. I've actually removed the stitch marker that I had there for that central stitch. So those 3 stitches, I'm going to do a chain 1, so that's just to turn again, and then over these last 3 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, so in this stitch in the back loop, pick up a loop. We're going to work a double crochet 3 together over these 3 stitches. So in that one, pick up a loop, that's 1, then the central stitch, pick up a loop, and then here the last stitch, which I'll just have to dig out. And this is not unusual that you have to dig out that last stitch. There we go. Third one, again 3 loops, or 4 loops I should say, on your hook, yarn over, take them all off, and that's it. Chain 1, this is to finish everything off, and now you can cut your yarn and open up this loop. There we go. And then, now this chain 1 actually made a little knot, so just pull that tight. That'll just help to secure that end. Then this completes the first square. For square number 2, so this is square 1, you're going to start with the right side facing, so I've got the stitch marker here. We're now going to work a square over here, so we're going to work along this edge and then create a new edge here at the bottom with a series of chains. So we're going to start there, the top here with where we had the double crochet 3 together. That's where we're going to start, and then work along this edge and then here to the bottom. So just for your orientation, because when I zoom in this will be more difficult to see. So that's where we're going to start. So I have the right side facing, and I've got my yarn on my hook with a slip knot, and again it's a different color, but that's just so that you can really see where I'm picking up the stitches, but you would just continue in the same color that you have on the whirl. So with the slip knot on your hook, and then here is that 3 together stitch. So I've rotated my square because I want to work along this edge. Now we're going to start with a standing double crochet here, and the easiest is if you just poke your hook here right at like in the middle of this 3 together stitch. So don't try to work in the stitch or anything, just poke your hook here in the center. There, that's really the easiest way to just get that connected. So poke your hook in there and then work a double. So that's your first stitch. Now you're going to, that's the first of 25. We're going to work 25 stitches here along the edge, where the last one ends here at the end. So that's our goal. So that was 1, and you're just going to evenly distribute them with the idea that, basically it's 2 per row, but it doesn't exactly work out. So you're just going to have to like eyeball this a little bit. So 25 stitches, that's where you're going. So that's 1. We're going to do 2 over here, and then 3, and here's 4 and 5, 6, 7. You can see how I'm just working this edge. You can see where they're going. And it's, like I said, it's not right or wrong exactly where you put your stitches. This is about getting 25 doubles evenly distributed along the edge. That's what you want. And whether you have one position to the left or to the right, it's really okay. Give yourself that freedom to just work these stitches however you feel they work best on your blanket. I'm going to be doing this a lot anyway. So but what is important when you work these stitches is to have the right side facing, because then you're going to have the neatest edge. And I have of course lost count, because that's what happens when I talk to you. But I will, when I'm almost towards the end, I'll just count my stitches and make sure that I have 25 of them. And I'm almost here, I'm almost there. So I'm just going to work 2 more, and then I'll just quickly count my stitches to see if I need to work 1, 2 or 3 more stitches, because that'll just depend, you know, how exactly I deal with this last position. So let me just quickly count here. So remember that first standing stitch also counts. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 23, 24. Okay, I've got 24 stitches on here already. That means I just need 1 more, so I'm going to work it. I'm just going to do that right here at the edge there. Just going to work there, number 25. And that way I have this nice and secure. For example, if you had 23 here, you would work 2 more. You know, it just give yourself a bit of room there. So 25 stitches here along the edge. So this deals with the first edge. And now we're going to work the second part of this edge, and that is a number of chains, 26 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26. 26 chains. And now you've come, so I'm just going to put it like this. So this was this edge on this side, and this is the chain edge here at the bottom. So that completed row 0, and now we're ready to start working the pattern again. Row 1. We're now going to start by working into these chains. Just need a bit more yarn. And we're going to do that very similar to the first square. Going to skip the first chain, that's that one, skip that one, then come to the second, so skipping that one, come to the second and work a double crochet in there. So that's 1, and then come to the next stitch and work a double. You're going to do that and work 24 doubles into the chain, and when you've done 24, you won't have completed everything, you will have chains left. So I'm just going to continue and work a double in 24 of these chains. I've now done 24 doubles, and at this point you should have 1 chain left, and then comes all the double crochets that we worked here along the edge. Now in this chain and the first 2 doubles, we're going to work a double crochet 3 together, and then we'll mark that with a stitch marker again, and that will be a new corner for the second square. So in the loop here from the chain, pick up a loop, and then the first 2 doubles, the back loop there, pick up a loop, and the next stitch, the back loop, the same, pick up a loop. 4 loops on your hook, take them all off in one go. Again, mark this stitch because this is your corner, so we're going to do the same as we did on the first square. You have now 24 stitches left here. In the back loop of all of those, work a double. And again, be mindful, that's where you're finished, so come to your next stitch. So that's 1, and then this is 2, and you're just going to continue to the end. It's 24, but that comes down to a double in the back loop of every stitch right to the end. So continue this, then I'll just show you the last stitch. Almost to the end, I've got 2 stitches left there, so on those last 2 stitches work a double in the back loop. That's 1, and the last one here. This is the standing stitch, which is now being a little troublesome. There we go. That's the last stitch. There we go. And now you can turn your work for the next row. Now row 2 of this square is actually the same as row 2 of the first square. The only difference is you have the right side facing instead of the wrong side, but it's the same idea. So it's chain 1, then in the first stitch, so you're going to skip the chain because it doesn't count for anything, but in the first stitch in the back loop, work a double, and do that on every stitch until there's one stitch left before the marked double 3 together stitch. So I'm just going to show you this to you quickly, but this is exactly the same as for square 1. So continue until you have one stitch left. So I've worked all those doubles and there's now one stitch left here, and then it's the marked stitch. I'm going to remove the marker, and then in the next 3 stitches back loop, work a double 3 together. So the first stitch, pick up a loop in the back loop, the second through the back, pick up a loop, and the third through the back, pick up a loop. 4 loops on your hook, take them all off. There you go. And again mark this 3 together stitch. There we go. And now again up to the end, work a double on every stitch, so until you get to the end. So and for this specific case, it's 24 or 23, I believe it's 23, but it changes per row. So simply work a double in the back loop until you get to the end. So continue this a little bit, and then I'll see you just at the end again. Almost to the end, got 2 stitches left. Again, be mindful of that turning chain that could hide stitches here at the end. Got 2 more, so through the back loop, so that's 1, and the last one here, which is 2. There we go. And then turn your work for row 3. And this is your work at the moment. You've done the first 2 rows of this square, and now you're going to repeat everything like you did here. So row 2 repeat that we just worked here, repeat that for row 3, 4, 5, 6 until row 24. And then I'll see you for row 25 again, but it's exactly the same as this first square up to now. The only difference is the number of rows, because you had here this base chain on square 1. The number of rows here are slightly different, and you'll finish on the wrong side instead of the right side, but it is very, very similar, a few details that are different. So from now for row 3 to 24, so that's all about filling in this square, repeat row 2 exactly like you've done up till now. And when you've worked 24 rows, this is what your work looks like. You have 1 row left, row 25. We're going to do that in a moment, but this is your work right now. So let's finish this square. For row 25, again a chain 1, and I've got 3 stitches left here in the corner, and on these 3 stitches going to work a double 3 together in the back loop. So that's 1, and I've got a few more loops than I intended there. That's 2, and the third one here, number 3, back loop, and take them all off in one go. Chain 1, cut your yarn, and then pull this loop through and tighten that square. You've got the wrong side facing, so turn your work around again to have the right side facing. So you've just made square 1 and 2, finished square 2. Now we're going to work square 3, and we're going to work that here at the top. That's going to be square number 3. And then you can see how they're very similar, these two squares up to now, but from now on you'll always finish with the wrong side of your work on the last row. So this very last row with the 3 together, it'll always be the wrong side. Then just flip your work back before starting the next square. So for square 3, have the right side facing, and then we're going to work the square here at the top there. For row 0, we're going to start with a loop on our hook and going to chain 26. So 26 chain stitches. So here we're first going to work the edge and then pick up stitches. So work 26 chain stitches. And 26. There we go. 26 chains. Quite a chain. And now we're going to, from the second chain, start with doubles. So it's going to skip the first chain, then come to the second and work a double in there, and work one on every chain. So that's going to be 25 doubles. So that was 1, this is 2, right until you get to the end. Then you've got 25, 3, this is 4. I'm just going to continue like this and work a chain, or on every chain work a double. So I've just worked those 25 doubles, and now we're going to continue here on the top edge of the square. So there we're going to start on that corner and then work all the way over, and we're going to finish in the same position as where we started the square next to it, so there in that corner. Now we want to distribute 26 doubles evenly, and again it's not a matter of right or wrong, whatever feels good to you. So I'm going to start here at the edge. I'm going to pick up a stitch there, so I'm going to work, that's 1, and then I'm going to do 2 here, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, I'll just show you this entire edge, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So what's important here is that you have the right side of the blanket facing, so just take notes, the right side facing. So this was 11, and then 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and I just need a bit more yarn, and 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, I'm going to squish in 2 more, 25, I'm going to squish 25 in there, and then 26, I want to finish exactly in the same position as this corner stitch there, so you've already got, so in that same hole, squish in number, there we go, 26. So 26 doubles here along this edge, and then you've got 25 doubles here on the base chain. Then turn your work for row 1. Row 1, this is actually the same as everything we've done before, but I'll show it to you nonetheless. So it's chain 1, so then now have the wrong side facing, and then in the back loop of the first 24 stitches work a double. So we're going to skip the chain, of course, and then in the back loop, so that's 1, and this is 2, and 3, 4, 4, I wanted to say. This is 4, so continue until you've done 24 of these, and then I'll see you back. So I've just worked 24 doubles in the back loop, and now we're going to work a double 3 together over the next 3 stitches in the back through the back loop. So this is 1, pick up a loop, and then the second stitch, pick up a loop, because you're just here on the corners and this is all a little floppy, and then the third one here. There we go. So a double 3 together and take them all off. Once again, mark this stitch to help you find it later on. And now on the through the back loop of all these stitches, 24 again, right up to the end, work a double on every stitch. 1, 2, and that'll be 24 until you get here to the end. Worked all those doubles, especially for the last one. Be again aware that you catch that last stitch, then turn your work for row 2. Row 2 is again the same as all previous row 2s, but I'll show you again quickly. So chain 1, come to the first stitch, and in the back loop work a double, and work a double on every stitch through the back loop until there's 1 stitch left before that marked stitch, and then we're going to work a corner. So continue like this, and then I'll see you back when there's 1 stitch left before the marker. I've just worked all the doubles here, all these doubles, and now there's 1 stitch left, and then you get to the marked stitch. So I'm going to remove the marker, and now over the next 3 stitches work a double 3 together. So this is 1 and 2 and 3 legs, and take them all off. Mark this 3 together stitch with the marker. Let me just catch it properly. There we go. And now continue along this edge through the back loop. Work a double crochet on every stitch right up to the end. And again, be sure to work that last stitch. So a double crochet on every stitch right up to the end. So continue and to the end. For row 3 and onwards, again up to row 24, you're going to be filling in this square here. So we're going to be repeating row 2 just like you did here for this square. Repeat row 2 and fill in this entire square, and again every time when you get to the corner, remember those 3 together, and indeed mark that corner and make sure that you can really see where that corner is. So repeat row 2, and then I'll see you for row 25 just here at the point again. And when you've completed those 24 rows, this is what your work looks like. So you've really almost filled out that corner. So you've got this square here. Now we've got one more row to do, row 25. So I'm just going to zoom in and show you that, but it's the same as we've done before. For row 25, again a chain 1. And I've got 3 stitches left here in the corner, and on these 3 stitches I'm going to work a double 3 together in the back loop. So that's 1, and I've got a few more loops than I intended there. That's 2, and the third one here, number 3, back loop, and take them all off in one go. Chain 1, cut your yarn, and then pull this loop through and tighten that square. You've got the wrong side facing, so turn your work around again to have the right side facing. And when you're finished, this is what your work looks like. So now what we need to do now for square number 4 is actually repeat square number 3 here at the top. So here we're going to repeat exactly the same for square 3. Going to repeat here for square 4. When you've added another square here on the top, this is what your work looks like. It's like this an elongated edge here on one side. I'll just zoom in and show you exactly what this join looks like so you can see that in more detail also. If you zoom in, this is what the join looks like. So again, here along this edge I have 26 stitches, 26 doubles, and here along the edge, of course, you've got this yarn tail here, and you're just going to join that to this work also, and that'll make this the stitches standing a bit up there. It'll just make it fall nicely flat. But I'm only going to do this after I actually do the border, because that'll just make it possible to really make sure that I don't have a gap there. So this is what the join looks like, and now we're ready to continue with square 5. For square number 5, we're actually going to be working, I'll just take this off. We're just going to work along this edge and then along this edge. So we're first going to pick up, well, not so much pick up, but work double crochets here and then work double crochets there, and that way fill up this entire square. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to start here at the top, just next to this square. That's where we're going to start. So for row 0 of square number 5, you have the right side facing. So I see here I have my stitch marker here to the front. And we're going to start here in the top corner. And we're going to start with a standing double crochet. And we're going to do this in the same place as where we worked. There's already a stitch like in there from here from the white square. So we're going to work in that same place. This is again in that 3 together stitch. So in there, like really in that stitch, insert your hook, and I'm just going to just pull your yarn tails to the side. I'm just really leaving the yarn tails until I have all 4 edges done around a corner, and then I'll work away the yarn tails. So that's the first standing double crochet, just exactly in that same position. Now here along the edge we're going to work 25 more. So we have 26 doubles in total, but this first one is then the standing one. And now work 26 more along the edge. So I'm just going to go here. So this is, oh sorry, we work 25 more, so we have 26 in total. My apologies. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll just work all of these with you. So this is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So those are 20. And now I need 5 more. That's going to be 1, 2, and especially the last ones are important to prevent a gap. 1, 2, and then this is 3, 4, and the very last one, I'm just going to catch that one here. So here, this is really at the base of this square. So here I have the red, really like there. I'm just going to catch number 25. And by doing this as low as possible, I prevent a gap. So it doesn't really matter where you place these ones, but if you do place the last one here, That'll just help you to prevent gaps. So now I've got 26 doubles here in total. So the standing one is the first one plus 25. Now rotate your work and go along the next edge. So here along the edge of the next square. So this corner square here, we're actually not explicitly going to work into this square. We're only going to work along the two edges. And that's why it's important to get these stitches as close together as possible, because that helps to prevent gaps. So along this edge we're going to do 25 again. And here I'm just going to pick up a stitch there. So that's going to be number 1. So in that first row, there's going to be the first one. That's 1. And now I want 25 along this edge, where I again want to finish here in the 3 together stitch right at the end, just like on all the other squares. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11, yes, I want another one in here. This is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I may be going a little bit faster, but you've done this before. 16, so this is very similar to the other squares. 17, 18, 19, 20. So now I've got 20 done. Need 5 more. That's 1, 1 and 2, 3. Gonna push number 24 in there, and then number 25 I really want to push it into the center of that 3 together stitch to really work the edge at the end, so to really let you really pick up that corner. And those are 25 stitches here along the edge. Now you have 51, so 25 here and 26 there. At this point you can turn your work for row 1. Row 1, we have the wrong side facing, so I'm seeing some yarn tails here. This row is very similar to what we've done before. Start with the chain 1. Then in the back loop of the first 24 stitches, work a double crochet. And especially that first one, there's the chain, so then come to the first stitch. So that's 1. And really rotate your work forward so that you can really see exactly where that stitch is. Yeah, that's number 2. Well, I'll continue until you have 24. And this is 3. Ooh, that's 3. So I'm going to make a jump in the video because you've done this before, until you have 24 doubles. I have 24 stitches worked in the back loop. Now over the next 3 stitches back loop, going to work a double crochet 3 together. So that means here in the you're now really on this corner here, and these stitches can be a little tricky. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then take them all off. Again, mark this stitch with a stitch marker, especially those first few rows, then it's easier to find. And now work, you should have 24 stitches left right here to the end. Work on the back row, through the back loop I should say. Work a double crochet on every stitch right up to the end, all 24 of them. So I'm going to continue like this, and when you're at the end of the row you can turn your work for the next row. Row 2. This row 2 is the same as all previous rows 2s of the other squares, but I'll show you again quickly. Start with a chain 1, and now in the back loop work a double crochet in every stitch until there's 1 stitch left before the marked stitch here in the corner. So, and of course, depending on which row you are on, this will be a different number of stitches because you're going to be repeating this again and again. So again, in the first stitch work a double, then come to the second, and repeat this on every stitch until you have 1 stitch left before the corner. So I'm just going to continue, and I'll see you back here. So I'm here almost to the marked stitch. There's 1 stitch left, and then I get to the marked stitch. So I'm just removing the marker because it's easier, and over the next 3 stitches work double crochet 3 together through the back loops. So this here is 1, and then 2, and here is 3, and take them all off. Again, mark this stitch because it's easier in the next row to then find where that 3 together stitch is. Now continue here along this edge and work a double through the back loop on every stitch right up to the end. And indeed every row you work will be 1 less repeat. But for now, 23, 22, I forgot. Work a double on every stitch through the back loop right up to the end, and then you can turn your work. So this is where you are now. For row 3 and onwards, you're going to repeat row 2, so you're going to fill in this square, and just like we've done before. So repeat row 2 back and forth, you're going to be going, and then here I'll just see you for the last row, but I'm sure you don't even need me for it. But then I'll see you for row 25 I should say. So repeat row 2 until you've done 24 rows. And when you've worked all 24 rows, this is what your work looks like. Now I have just this last row to do, so I'm just going to zoom in and show you that, but you can see how you've really filled out this corner here. So row 25, chain 1 as we always do. You have 3 stitches left, going to work a double crochet 3 together through the back loop of these 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and then number 3 over there. Then take them all off. There we go. Chain 1, that's to be able to tie everything together a little bit. Cut your yarn and then open up this loop. Pull a little tight on that knot. There we go, and now you've finished row 25, square 5. For square 6, here next to square number 2, we're going to work square 6, and that's actually a complete repetition of square 2. So for square 6, repeat square 2. When you've completed square number 6, this is what your work looks like. So now you have them like this, and you can continue further. For squares 7 to 117, you're going to be continuing this pattern. So you're going to be working back and forth diagonally. Just follow the schematic, and all your squares will either be a repetition of square 2, like you have here, a repetition of square 3, like you have here, or a repetition of square 5, so this one. So square 2 has the one edge, square 3 has the bottom edge, and square 5 has then 2 edges. So every square is a repetition of one of these 3. So continue to work all the squares, and it's quite some time. On this sample swatch, I'm just going to work 3 more. Then I'll have 3 by 3, so 9 squares, and then I'll use that to show you how to do the border. But for now, continue and work all other squares until you have 117. So I've filled out all the squares. This is what my work looks like right now, and you can really see how these diagonals they're folding in. And if your blanket is larger, this will be over the entire diagonal of the blanket. Don't worry about this. When you block the blanket, this will really flatten out. You can see if I pull it like this, it flattens out already. So no worries about this. Leave it till the end, and then you'll block your blanket. So I've now done this as a mini version. This 3 by 3 squared blanket, and now we're going to start with the border. For row 0 of the blanket, we're going to zoom in and we're going to start in the corner where we finished with our last square. So square 117 for you. For me it's only square number 9. We're going to zoom in, and here we're going to start with the right side facing, then we'll work around 0. So I've zoomed in. This is that corner of my last square. I have yarn on my hook with a slip knot, and we're going to start in the 3 together stitch right here along the edge with a standing double crochet. And again, put it here in the middle, just like you've worked all the other squares, just a little bit like here in the middle of that 3 together stitch. Just punch in your hook. Oh wait, I want that yarn tail on that side because that's more logical. And then work a standing double crochet in there. Now in that same space where you've just put that first double, work 2 more. So 1 and and 2. There you go. Now you have 3 double crochets in there, and just mark the second one of the 3. And this is because this is a corner of your blanket, and we're going to be working in the round, and that way it's just going to be easier to find. So mark that second of the 3 with a stitch marker. Okay. Now we're going to work along the edge of every square. Work 25 double crochets and distribute them evenly. So along this first square, the pink one, and then the second one, for me that's going to be the red one, and all the way until you're to the end of this first edge. Now I only have 3 squares to do. You've of course got a lot more. I'll just get you started. So this is very similar to what we've done before. 25 along the edge, evenly distributed. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just going to continue until I'm here, and then until I'm here, and then I'll just show you the jump to the next square. So I've now done 3 in the corner, and now I'm going to work 25 here along this edge. I've made the first 23 doubles. I have 2 more left to do. So I'm going to do number 24 in here, and then number 25 I'm just going to put there. That'll be number 25. And now I'm going to step over to the next square, and this next square again work 25 doubles, and again here distribute them evenly. So I'm just going to go here. Here I'm going to make my first one. So that's like 1, and then this is 2, and then here will be 3, and then I continue like that and work 25 along this edge to here. And then I work 25 along the next edge, right up to the end of the first edge when you get to the corner of the blanket. Here to the back, purposefully I've left this yarn tail because I'm only going to work it away now that I have this this edge done. Actually, I'm going to wait a few more rounds because that's just easier. Then I can really work away this yarn tail in such a way that I don't get a hole here, so that you don't get a hole there. But this first edge row is really about just setting up these stitches, and after that you can just go with the border. So for now, continue work 25 doubles along the edge of every square, then I'll see you at the corner of the blanket. So I've just worked 25 doubles on the last square, and of course also the ones before, and now I'm at the corner. In the corner of the blanket, going to work 3 doubles, and it kind of depends. In this case, there's this edge, this chain edge here. Your corner will look different for on all 4 corners, but just here at the edge, insert your hook, so wherever it feels natural to do so, and work 3 doubles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Then again, mark the second of these 3 doubles. So that one, mark it, because that's the corner of the blanket. So mark that stitch. And now you can rotate your work and repeat everything we've done before. So now along this edge, work 25 doubles. And then along this edge, right up until you get to your next corner. And again, this corner here looks a little weird because this is your first corner. This is of the very first square. So in there, just find the corner, work 3 doubles, and then come up. So you're going to do the same on all 4 edges. Work 25 doubles along every square, and then sometimes it'll be like here that you work in the base of a chain, and sometimes it will be that you work along the edge of a square, you know, where you have the turning rows. So doesn't matter either way. Work 25 doubles, and in the corner work 3 and mark the corner stitches, and then I'll see you right at the end for the closing. So I've gone all the way around, so I've worked along the edge of all these squares. I have 25 everywhere, 3 in all the corners, and all the way around. Now I'm going to close with a slip stitch in that standing stitch. Now let me just figure out which yarn tail is which. Yes, this is the yarn tail that goes along with the standing stitch. There we go. So in that standing stitch, just insert in there, and then I'm going to close there with a slip stitch. And there we go. And now move over 1 position with a slip stitch to the marked corner stitch. So just move over 1 stitch. And there we go. You've now completed round 0. Turn your work to have the wrong side facing for round 1. Round 1, and this round is going to be the same for every border round. Start with a chain 1, and then here in the marked stitch, so this is where you're currently at, work 3 double crochets. Now actually I'm just going to remove the marker because it'll make it easier to put those stitches in there. So, but I now know where it is, there in that hole. Make 3 doubles. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Mark the second of those 3 stitches, the second one, because that's your new corner. There you go. Now come along the edge, and for this first row you're really going to have to rotate your work so you can really see the stitches. In the back loop of every stitch, work a double crochet until you're to your next corner. Now this first stitch, remember you've got the slip stitch there. So you see there's the slip stitch. Be sure to catch that stitch. It's easier to work in the slip stitch than to try to work in the stitch underneath. So for this first one, just grab hold of that slip stitch there. So that's, and this first one is difficult because it's kind of hidden by the corner that you just made. So there, through the back loop, there. Just grab your yarn and work a double. and then after that it becomes slightly easier. One in every stitch. And this is okay, this is actually also another slip stitch, of course, because you've got two of them. And then it becomes easier. So pick the slip stitches as opposed to the stitch underneath. And now work through the back loop of every stitch. Work a double. And this is nice and relaxing. Just run through every stitch until you get to the corner. So continue. I've only got the 3 squares, so I'll be there rather quickly. But you've got a few more squares. Continue like this through the back loop of every double. Work a double right until you're at your next corner, until you're there. So continue, and then I'll see you back. I've now worked a double through every back loop right up to the corner stitch here. Now I'm at the marked corner. Now in this corner I'm going to work a new corner. So I'm just going to remove the marker here. Now for the corner, what's important, we're going to work through both loops. The reason is then the corner becomes just a little bit more sturdy, because corners tend to have quite a lot of tension on them, you know, but just from use. So in that stitch, going to work through both loops. So here through both loops, and work 3 doubles. That's 1, 2, 3. Then again mark the second of those 3 stitches. Mark that as your new corner stitch. There we go. And now we're ready for the next edge. Then again here do exactly the same, and now of course you don't have this that trouble with the slip stitches. Now you can just continue straight on into the next stitch through the back loop there. So that's your first one, and then here's the second. And continue like this and go all the way round. So in every corner work 3 doubles through both loops, and on all other stitches through the back loop only, so through the back loop only, work a double crochet. When you're all the way around, I'll just show you the closing. So I'm all the way round. I've just worked the last stitch, and now we're here at the corner where we started. Now there's a chain 1 there, you're going to skip that, and then here at the first stitch, close on that stitch with a slip stitch. That's this loop, and so through the entire stitch, so both loops, close with a slip stitch. There we go, so that's 1, and now move to the marked corner stitch with another slip stitch. There we go. That completes this round. Turn your work to have the other side facing. This is what your work looks like at the moment. I'm of course only got a few squares, but the idea is the same. You've now worked row 0 and row 1 of the border. Repeat row 1 14 until you've got 14 rows. So you've got to do 13 more, and that will grow your border. That'll be a bit wider. So I'm just going to continue. Repeat row 1 until you've got 14 rounds. If your gauge is different, then maybe you'll be able to work around more or around less, but basically continue until your yarn is finished. That's more or less what the idea is at this point. So repeat round 1 until your border has 14 rounds, ideally. When you've worked all the rows of the border, this is what your work looks like, more or less. You have a nice wide border. And now I'd just like to show you the invisible join on the last row. When you're all the way round, so this is at the end of round 14, you still need to close with an invisible join. So I've now worked that last double in the back loop there, and here's the first corner. So after your last stitch, cut your yarn, which I've also already done, cut your yarn, and then open up this loop. So in essence you're fastening off. I'm going to thread this yarn onto a needle, and now we're going to close with an invisible join. And we're going to do that by covering this first stitch and doing the join in the marked stitch. So I'm going to thread my needle into the marked stitch from front to back, so into that marked stitch, Then bring this a little closer. And now come back to the last stitch worked, so this is that last double that you worked there. Insert your needle into that stitch from top to bottom. And we're kind of aiming a little bit that it comes out at the back. So through that stitch. And pull through. And then these two loops, they form the new stitch. Now pull your yarn tight until it really covers that first stitch there. There we go. And it also yeah, nicely it's the same size as the other stitches. Still got a bit of that loop there from my first stitch, so I'm just going to pull that loop a little bit there just to make it more even. There, it's better already. Now at this point I'm going to work away this yarn tail, and then you're all finished. Just a few words on yarn tails. You'll have many yarn tails here to the back, and when working them away, make sure that you, if you happen to have a small hole like you see here between the squares, this can happen. If you have a small hole there, use this yarn tail to close that hole. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So this, you're going to do it with all your different squares. So I'll just zoom in a little bit that you can see a little bit better exactly what I mean. But the idea is that you use this yarn tail to close any gaps that there might be between your squares. So here there's a small gap there. So look at it from the front, you see, okay, I want to close that gap. So and in this case my yarn color is really a different color, but you'll have colors that are very similar next to one another. So then I'm just going to thread my yarn to the other square, to the adjacent square, and you can already see the moment I start going that way, it's closing this gap here, because here's the gap. So I'm just going to thread it a little bit through this square, the adjacent square, and now I'm going to come back, and that will nicely close this gap. So I just pull it a little tight, and now if you look at it from the front, you see that hole's completely gone there. And now I'm going to work away this yarn tail further along here, along the edge, and just go back and forth 2 or 3 times. And that way I'm going to work away all the yarn tails. So if I do happen to have a small hole there, you can just fill in that hole. So go ahead and work away all your yarn tails. Just a few words on blocking your blanket. You'll notice you'll have these diagonal lines that are running across your blanket from all the 3 together stitches we've been making. So it's kind of folded like this, and it's, in general it'll just be all wavy and wobbly. So I suggest you wet block your blanket, and this means that you completely immerse it in water, make it completely wet, and then rinse out all the excess water, or squeeze it out, whichever works for you, and then pin it into shape so that you can really you know, stretch up this square. I've also got a separate video showing you how I wet block blankets. I'll post a link to that video in the description. But for now, wet block your blanket, and you can really already see, if I just pull at these squares, you can see how it really flattens out that wobble, and it'll actually also make your blanket considerably larger from what it is at the moment. So take a moment to wet block your blanket, and then I'll show you what my sample looks like after blocking. After blocking this sample blanket, this is what it looks like. It's nice and flat, so that wobble we had is gone. The edges are straight, the corners are straight, and all in all the sample blanket looks great. This brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed making this project with me, and hope to see you again soon for a new project.